Chapter 23 Dharam Yudh, the Holy War. The Chandravanshis were arranged like a bow, strong yet flexible. The recently raised Tortoise Regiment had been placed at the center. The light infantry formed the flanks, while the cavalry in turn bordered them. The chariots had been abandoned due to the unseasonal rain the previous night. They could not risk the wheels getting stuck in the slush. The newly reared archer regiments remained stationed at the back. Skillfully designed backrests had been fabricated for them, which allowed the archers to lie on their backs and guide their feet with an ingenious system of gears. The bows could be stretched across their feet and the strings drawn back up to their chins, releasing powerful built arrows almost the size of small spears. As they were behind the Suryavanshi infantry, their presence was hidden from the Chandravanshis. The superior numerical strength of the Chandravanshis was apparent in the standard offensive formation in which their army was deployed. Their massive infantry was arranged in squads of 5,000. There were 50 such squads comprising a full legion in a straight line. They stretched as far as the eye could see. There were 3 additional legions behind the first one, ready to finish off the job. This formation allowed a direct assault onto a numerically inferior enemy, giving the offense tremendous strength and solidity, but also making it rigid. The Scots left spaces in between for the cavalry to change if required. A study of the Suryavanshi formation had made the Chandravanshis move their cavalry from the rear to the flanks. This would enable a quicker charge at the flanks of the Suryavanshi formation and disrupt enemy lines. The Chandravanshi journal had clearly read the ancient war manuals and was following them religiously, page by page. It would have been a perfect move against an enemy who also followed standard tactics. Unfortunately, he was up against a Tibetan tribal chief whose innovation had transformed the Chandravanshi attack. As Shiva rode towards the hillock at the edge of the main battlefield, the Brahmins increased the tempo of their shalokas, while the war drums pumped the energy to a higher level. Despite being outnumbered on a vast scale, the Suryavanshis did not exhibit even the slightest hint of nervousness. They had buried their fear deep. The war cries of the clan gods of the various brigades rent the air. इंद्र देव की जय, अग्नि देव की जय, जय शक्ति देवी की, वरुण देव की जय, जय पवन देव की. But these cries were forgotten in an instant as the soldiers saw a magnificent white steed canter in over the hillock carrying a handsome muscular figure. A thunderous roar pierced the sky, loud enough to force the gods out of their cloud palaces to peer at the events unfolding below. The Nilkant raised his hand in acknowledgement. Following him was General Parvateshwar, accompanied by Nandi and Veerbhadra. Varaka was off his horse in a flash as Shiva approached him. Parvateshwar dismounted equally rapidly and was next to Varaka before Shiva could reach him. "The Lord will lead the right flank, Brigadier," said Parvateshwar. "I hope that is all right." "It will be my honor to fight under his command, my lord," said a beaming Varaka. He immediately pulled out his field commander Baram from the grip on his side, went down on one knee and raised his hand high to hand over the charge to Shiva. You people have to stop doing this, said Shiva, laughing. You embarrass me. Pulling Varaka up on his feet, Shiva embraced him tightly. I am your friend, not your lord. A startled Varaka stepped back, his soul unable to handle the gush of positive energy flowing in. He mumbled, Yes, my lord. Shaking his head softly, Shiva smiled. He gently took the baton from Varaka's extended hand and raised it high for the entire Suryavanshi army to see. An ear-splitting cry ripped through the ranks. Mahadev, Mahadev, Mahadev. Shiva vaulted onto his horse in one smooth arc, holding the baton high. He rode up and down the line. The Suryavanshi roar got louder and louder. Mahadev, Mahadev, Mahadev. Suryavanshis bellowed Shiva, raising his hand. Meluhans, hear me. The army quietened down to hear their living god. Who is a Mahadev? Roared Shiva. They listened in rapt attention, hanging on to every word. Does he sit on a pitiable height and look on idly while ordinary men do what should be his job? No. Some soldiers were praying inaudibly. Does he lazily bestow his blessings while others fight for the good? Does he stand by nonchalantly and count the death while the living sacrifice themselves to destroy evil? No. There was pin-drop silence as the Suryavanshis absorbed their Nilkant's message. A man becomes a Mahadev when he fights for good. A Mahadev is not born as one from his mother's womb. He is forged in the heat of battle when he wages a war to destroy evil. The army stood hushed, feeling a flood of positive energy. I am a Mahadev, bellowed Shiva. A resounding roar arose from the Suryavanshis. They were led by the Mahadev, the god of gods. The Chandravanshis did not stand a chance. But I am not the only one. A shocked silence descended on the Suryavanshis. What did the Mahadev mean? He is not the only one? Do the Chandravanshis also have a god? I am not the only one, for I see 100,000 Mahadevs in front of me. I see 100,000 men willing to fight on the side of good. I see 100,000 men willing to battle evil. I see 100,000 men capable of destroying evil. The stunned Suryavanshis gaped at their Nilkant as the import of his words permeated their minds. They dared not ask the question, Are we gods? Shiva had the answers. Har ek hai Mahadev. The Meluhans stood astounded. Every single one a Mahadev? Har Har Mahadev, bellowed Shiva. The Meluhan roared. All of us are Mahadevs. Pure primal energy coursed through the veins of each Suryavanshi. They were gods. It didn't matter that the Chandravanshis outnumbered them 10 to 1. They were gods, even if the evil Chandravanshis outnumbered them 100 to 1. Victory was assured. They were gods. Har Har Mahadev, cried the Suryavanshi army. Har Har Mahadev, yelled Shiva. All of us are gods. Gods on a mission. Drawing his sword, he pulled the reins of his horse, rising on its hind legs with a ferocious neigh. The horse pirouetted smartly to face the Chandravanshis. Shiva pointed his sword at his enemies. On a mission to destroy evil, the Suryavanshis bellowed after their lord, Har Har Mahadev. The cry rent the air, Har Har Mahadev. Victory would not be denied, Har Har Mahadev. The long spell of evil would end today, Har Har Mahadev. As the army roared like the gods that they were, Shiva rode on towards a beaming Parvateshwar who was flanked by Nandi, Veerbhadra and Varaka. Nice speech, grinned Veerbhadra. Shiva winked at him. He then turned his horse towards Parvateshwar. Journal, I think it's time we start our town rainfall. Yes, my lord, nodded Parvateshwar. Turning his horse around, he gave the orders to his flag bearer, the archers. The flag bearer raised the coded flag. It was red with a vicious black lightning dawned on it. The message was repeated by flag bearers across the lines. The Suryavanshi infantry immediately hunched down on its knees. Shiva, Parvateshwar, Varaka, Nandi, and Veerbhadra dismounted rapidly, pulling their horses down to their knees, and the arrows flew in a deadly shower. The archers had been placed in a semicircular formation to cover as wide a range of the Chandravanshi army as possible. 5,000 archers rained death on the Chandravanshis as the sky turned black with a certain of arrows. The hapless Swadipans were busy prey in their tight formations. The arrows, nearly as powerful as short spears, easily penetrated the leather and wooden shields of the irregular Chandravanshi soldiers. Only the regular held metal shields. Within minutes, the first legion of irregular had begun to break their line and yield precious ground. They were taking too many casualties to hold on to their position. The irregulars started running back, causing chaos. Confusion reigned in the legions behind. Parvateshwar turned towards Shiva. I think we should lengthen the range, my lord. Shiva nodded in reply. Parvateshwar nodded to his flag bearer, who relayed the message. The archers stopped shooting for just a few moments. Turning their wheels right, they rapidly raised the height of their foot rests. With the longer range quickly set, they drew their arrows and let fly. The arrows hit the second legion of the Chandravanshis now. The pincer attack of the retreating first Chandravanshi legion and the concurrent hail of arrows created bedlam in the second legion. Shiva noticed the Chandravanshi cavalry moving into position to attack. He turned to Parvateshwar. General, their cavalry is moving out. They would aim to flank us and attack the archers. Our cavalry needs to meet them midfield. Yes, my lord, said Parvateshwar. I had anticipated this move from the Chandravanshis. That's why I had positioned two cavalries, led by Maya Shrenik and Vidyunmali on the flanks. Perfect, but General, our cavalry must not move too far ahead, or our arrows will injure our own men. Not must they retreat. They have to hold their position at least for another 5 minutes. I agree, our archers need more time to finish their job. Parvateshwar turned to his flag bearer with detailed instructions. Two couriers set off rapidly to the left and right. Within moments, the eastern and western Arishtanemi, led by Maya Shrenik and Vidyunmali respectively, thundered out to meet the Chandravanshi counter-attack. Meanwhile, the disarray in the second legion of the Chandravanshi army increased as the unrelentingly ruthless wall of arrows pounded down upon them. The Chandravanshi archers, unmindful of their tiring limbs or bleeding hands, bravely continued their unremitting assault. The second legion line started breaking as the Chandravanshis tried desperately to escape the ruthless carnage. Higher range, my lord? Asked Parvateshwar, preempting Shiva's words. Shiva nodded in reply. Meanwhile, the Suryavanshi and Chandravanshi cavalries were engaged in fierce combat on the eastern and western ends of the battlefields. The Chandravanshis knew that they had to break through. Few more minutes of the Suryavanshi archers assault and the battle would be all but lost. They fought desperately like wounded tigers. Swords cut through flesh and bone. Spear pierced body armor. Soldiers with limbs hanging half severed, continued to battle away. Horses with missing riders attacked as if their own lives depended on it. The Chandravanshis were throwing all their might into breaking through the line that protected the archers, but to their misfortune, they had run into the fiercest brigadiers amongst the Suryavanshi. Maya Shrenik and Vidyunmali fought ferociously, holding the Mammoth Chandravanshi force at bay. The archers, meanwhile, had begun their onslaught on the third legion of the Chandravanshis. Their legions were either bleeding to death or deserting in great numbers. Some of them, however, held on grimly and courageously. When their shields were not strong enough to block the arrows, they used the bodies of their dead comrades, but they held the line. "Do we stop now and charge, my lord?" asked Parvateshwar. "No, I want the third legion devastated as well. Let it go on for a few more minutes." "Yes, my lord, we should get half the archers to raise their range further so that we can target the forward sections of the fourth legion as well. Confusion would reign right into the heart of their troops if their lines are also broken." "You're right, Parvateshwar. Let's do that." Meanwhile, the Chandravanshi cavalry on the western flank, sensing the hopelessness of their charge, began to retreat. Some Arishtnemi riders moved to give chase, but Vidyunmali stopped them. As the Chandravanshis retreated, Vidyunmali ordered his troop to hold their positions, lest the Chandravanshis launch a counter-attack. Seeing their enemy ride rapidly back to their lines, Vidyunmali ordered a withdrawal of their initial position on the flank of the bow formation. The Chandravanshis facing Maya Shrenik, however, were made of sterner stuff. Despite suffering several casualties, they fought grimly, refusing to retreat. Locked in battle, Maya Shrenik and his men fiercely held their ground. Suddenly, the hail of arrows stopped. The archers had been ordered to stand down. Now that their mission was accomplished without their intervention, the Chandravanshi brigadier ordered a retreat of his cavalry. Maya Shrenik in turn withdrew his troops quickly to his earlier position in preparation for the main charge, which he knew was just a few moments away. "General, shall we?" asked Shiva, nodding towards the left flank. "Yes, my lord," replied Parvateshwar. As Parvateshwar turned to mount his horse, Shiva called out, "Parvateshwar?" "Yes, my lord. Race you to the last line of the Chandravanshis." Parvateshwar raised his eyebrows in surprise, smiling broadly. "I will win, my lord." "We will see," grinned Shiva, his eyes narrowed in playful challenge. Parvateshwar rapidly mounted his horse and rode to his command on the left. Shiva, followed by Varakan, Nandi, and Veerbhadra, rode to the right. Prasanjit geared his tortoise crops in the center for the attack. "Meluhans!" roared Shiva, dismounting smoothly. "They lie in front of you, waiting to be slaughtered. It ends today. Evil ends today." "Har Har Mahadev!" bellowed the soldiers as the Meluhan conch shell announcing the Suryavanshi attack was blown. With an ear-shattering yell, the infantry charged towards the Chandravanshis. The tortoise corps moved in their slow, inexorable pace towards the Chandravanshi center. The side of the bow formation moved quicker than the center. The cavalry cantered along the flanks, protecting the infantry from an enemy charge. Courageous remnants of the third and fourth legions of the Chandravanshis, meanwhile, were rapidly forming their lines once again to face the Suryavanshi onslaught. But the mass of dead bodies of their fallen comrades did not allow them the space to form their traditional chaturanga formation, which could have allowed some lateral movement. They were huddled together in a tight but thin line when the Suryavanshi fell upon them. The Suryavanshi battle plan was being executed immaculately. The tightly curved line of highly trained and vicious soldiers had the Tartars' corps at the center, with the flanking line of light infantry slightly behind. The unstoppable Tartars' corps tore ruthlessly into the Chandravanshi center. The shields provided protection for the corps against the best Chandravanshi swordmen, while their trishuls ripped through the Swadipans. The Chandravanshis had but two choices: either fall the Trishul or the push towards the sides where the Suryavanshis were now bearing down hard on them. Even as the center of the Chandravanshi army broke under the unrelenting assault, the Suryavanshi flanks tore through their sides. Shiva was leading his flank ferociously into the Chandravanshis, decimating all in front of him. To his surprise, he found the enemy lines thinning. Letting his fellow soldiers charge ahead of him, he rose to his full height to observe the movements. A part of the Chandravanshi line that had been opposing him had withdrawn, only to regroup at the center of the battlefield. They were attacking the only exposed flank of the Tartars' corps, their right side, which could not be protected by shields. Someone in the Chandravanshi army was using his brain. If any of the Tartars broke, the Chandravanshi would swarm through the center in a tight line, devastating the Suryavanshis. Meluhans, roared Shiva, follow me. Shiva's flag bearer raised his pennant. The soldiers followed. The Nilkant charged into the side of the Chandravanshi lines that were bearing down on the Tartars. Caught in a pincer attack between the Trishuls and the charge from Shiva's flank, the spirit of the Chandravanshis finally broke. What was once a mighty Chandravanshi army was now reduced to independent strugglers fighting valiantly for a losing cause. Shiva and Parvateshwar steered their men into completing the job. Victory was absolute. The Chandravanshi army had been comprehensively routed.